Hi everyone, and welcome back to DevShop. My name is Sherry List, and I'm your host today on this pretty cold day, together with a good colleague of mine, Osmus Jack. Hi Osmus, how are you doing today?
Hi Sherry, I'm good. As you said, it's pretty cold in Denmark these days. Maybe not cold compared to other countries, but it is cold and it's pretty windy. So we can complain about the weather. That's a good thing. How are you?
I'm also fine. Today we have our 25th episode. I mean, this is pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
Time flies.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of the day, what are we going to have on our show today?
Yeah, so today we're actually going to learn why we should build our apps with the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So in the session today, we're going to learn what is the Graph Toolkit and Microsoft Graph in general, and also, as the title says, 5 reasons why we should use it. And then we're also going to get a quick demo because I at least want to know how to get started with the Graph Toolkit. So we're gonna learn that, and then we're gonna see an end-to-end scenario. So I'm looking pretty much forward to that.
That's very good. Same here. And our speaker Beth Pan is also joining us today. But before I bring her on the screen, I want to mention a few things to you. Beth is going to actually answer all of your questions as well. So please type them on the chat. We're going to highlight it later on after her talk, and then we get the answer for you. And then you can also, I mean, interact with each other in the chat as well. We love to see that, but we really want you, thank you, Osmus, to have our code of conduct in mind, which is pretty simple. Just be mindful and thoughtful. And then we are also going to highlight few things in the chat and also on the screen as well. One is that our feedback form, because we need your feedback to improve our show. And then also the other one, all of you are going to get on this pretty cold day a winter learner badger as well. I'm going to talk about it later at the show as well, but when I highlight the code, you can just go ahead and get it. So is there anything I forgot, Rasmus?
No, but I can't wait. Let's bring Beth on to the screen. I know it's super early for you, Beth, and because you are in Seattle, so it's super early.
It's all good.
Welcome to
I'm
Dev Show.
excited for this. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it's we are awesomely delighted to have you here. So just to learn a bit more about you before we jump into the topic of today, and of course, first of all, how are you?
I'm a little sleepy, but I made my coffee, and I can't wait for people to learn more about the Graph Toolkit and ask any questions that they have.
Amazing. We know that from the card here that you are working in Microsoft. You have done that for 4 years. What do you do in Microsoft?
So I'm a software engineer, but I guess these days that title kind of says a lot about what you do every day. But I work in the organization that's called. We just changed our name. This is so hard. We used to call it PACS. Now we call it apps. It's
I didn't know.
I think it's application, apps, partners, and store, maybe? That's probably what it is. Anyways, so our team specifically manages, the first-party, third-party developer ecosystem around some of the Microsoft technologies and platforms. And for one, our team manages the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, which is a great tool for the Microsoft Graph service. So that's what I'm working on these days. Great. So on top of building great software, we also come out and do these sessions and try to get more people to use and build on top of our platform.
Amazing.
Great. Very random question, actually. How did you end up in tech?
I don't know. I actually graduated from business school a couple years ago, I had a internship at one of the insurance companies. I don't know if you guys know the insurance company in Europe, but it's called Nationwide Insurance. There's the jingle on TV. All the Nationwide is on your side. I don't know.
Ah.
Have you heard of it?
So, not really.
it's like a big insurance company. So the internship that I had actually provided a lot of opportunities for me to learn the tech world, and I was a SharePoint developer / admin, whatever the cool kids call it these days, in the SharePoint development bubble. So got to use a lot of Microsoft technologies, and eventually that I was just like, I wanted to try from jumping from customer to go to the mothership and see how that's like. That's when I got a job at Microsoft and started building all these great tools.
Oh.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So you have shared with us that you have a dream side gig. So now that we've heard how you end up in tech and what you do at Microsoft, what is your dream side gig?
I like food and drinks a lot. I don't know if it's a Chinese thing or just me. So I like making food and making drinks. And before I came to Seattle, I was like, if I were to quit this job today, what would I want to do? And I told my partner I would want to sell fried chicken and make craft beer and have a food truck and just drive it everywhere and bother my friend to like buy it.
Amazing.
That's
Love
fun.
it.
Yeah. Actually, I always had a dream of having my own cafe. So with all the cakes that I want to
Similar, see, all about food, or us crazy dog ladies.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of dogs, actually, you shared that you and your partner, you wanted to actually to rescue not dog, actually a cat. So then, can you tell us that what happened? Could you rescue any cat at the end?
We wanted to try out if we're ready to get a pet. It's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot that you have to do for them and with them. So during the pandemic, we were like, let's sign up to get like a foster kitten and see how it's like, and if we are ready. And then the organization that we signed up with on the second day just emailed us and said, we have a 80 pounds, 2-year-old puppy that's kind of like a pit bull mix. But he has heartworm, so you can't play with him. Are you guys ready to get like this dog, a lovely place? And my partner and I went, and of course he fell in love with the dog, and we had to take him home and like take care of him for 3 months. He's adopted now by a lovely family. So that's the funny story of us trying to get a cat and turned out a giant dog.
That happens, but it's good that at the end you rescued an animal, actually.
Yeah, so from that we realized that that's something that we wanted to do. So we're actually working with one of the organizations that specializes in rescuing Rottweilers, which is the kind of dog that we really like. And we also have a Rottweiler little puppy at home now. A 50 pounds puppy.
50 pounds, yeah, but that's great. Okay, that's really great. Shall we now move to the graph toolkit?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, great. So I'm going to show you the screen right now, and we are going to go away from here. So the stage is yours.
Sounds good. So today we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you should use Microsoft Graph Toolkit. I've been building this talk for a while. It used to be called Microsoft Graph and Tools, and then I was like, I'm going to change the title to be a little bit clickbaiting. So we'll see if this is successful. Let me go to my PowerPoint. So here is the agenda for today. I wanted all of you guys to take away from today 3 things. The first is define and describe the graph in the toolkit. And the second one is I'm going to give you 5 reasons that you should use it. And then last but not least, we will see some real-world demos about how the toolkit can enable you to do. So what is Graph? Today, we offer Microsoft 365 as a single suite of connected applications and services that operate within the context of your identity, whether you're at home, at work, at your desk, or on the move. and it's built on the foundation of security and compliance. In other words, it's a set of interconnected secure tools that help you do more wherever and whenever you need to do it. And the data and the insights which these services operate, that's the graph. So Microsoft Graph, by definition, is the Microsoft 365 data that describes the patterns of productivity, identity, and security in an organization. And right now we have, a couple of 10,000s of APIs in the graph, so a lot of data behind this API. Because the graph resides in the cloud, it is not bound to a traditional entity like a device or an operating system. So the graph allows us to pivot around a different kind of entity, which is a user. And we can create what we call a people-centric experience, applications and solutions that are designed around you and me, your calendars, your conversations, communications, tasks, devices, files, and so much more. Within an organization, Graph is providing data around you and your groups. And these are my coworkers in real life. And I just stole their pictures from our organization website. So think of your classmates, the files that you share, chats, you hold like the files and chats that you hold among each other. Or, if you're working at a hospital or insurance company, these are your coworkers within the same organization and what we call a tenant. So in terms of data available through the graph, there are several popular data sets, and these are some of the most popular ones around mail, conversations in Teams, your tasks on your planner or to-do, the users in your organization, the interactions that you have with them, files that you share, or the files that you hold in OneDrive, and events on your calendar, which means your meetings and things on your Outlook. And remember that I said we have like a couple tens of thousands of data. So these are some of the verticals and data sets. Each of them comes from a popular product or service in the Microsoft 365 family. So that was just a quick intro of Microsoft Graph, if you've never heard of it, because today we're talking about the tooling around the graph. So I thought might be interesting or important at the beginning to just kind of set up our expectation a little bit. So with that in mind, I'm going to go back to definition and add a second part to the what's Microsoft Graph. So the graph is the M365 data that describes the patterns of productivity, identity, and security in an organization, and they can be accessed through a set of tools that enable you to build apps that integrate with M365. So we've talked about what's Graph, and now we're going to move on to the toolings around it. And there's a lot of toolings that you can get online from the base layers of, the Graph APIs itself, the data connectors, or is it called Data Connect, or Microsoft Graph connectors and Data Connect. You can also, on top of that layer, you have all kinds of interactive documentations and samples that you can get to help you build your apps. Depends on your tech stack. There's also all kinds of SDKs based on your, again, your tech stack, and you can download this from all of this information from graph.microsoft.com. But we are going to remove the second layer and then just talk about, on top of that, there's a UI component library called the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, which is what my team manages. So what is the Microsoft Graph Toolkit? It's a library of reusable web components. They automatically bound to the Microsoft 365 data via the graph. And it works great in the development of web apps, PWAs, SharePoint web parts, Microsoft Team tabs, and across all the web frameworks and modern browsers. And when we talk about these tools, we always say, so who should use this, right? Because there are so many ways of building on top of great technologies. And we think the Graph Toolkit is for any developer that's building, like I said, web apps, Teams tab, SharePoint web parts that calls the graph. And right now, we actually have 10 components now. This is a little outdated. I forgot to update this slide. But anyways, we have a lot of great components within the component library, and you can go check it out in our playground. I'm actually going to show you here in a minute. Then it comes to the most important thing that we wanted to talk about is why. why would you want to choose the Graph Toolkit over some of the other technologies and helpers and tools that we have in the Graph family? So we're going to go through 5 reasons that you should use the toolkit. The first one is the most important one for me. This is, the Graph Toolkit is fully functional, which means by default, if you wanted to use what come out of the box, you don't really have to write any functional code for your web application. What this means is that, if you have a web page, you can just simply drop a couple lines of code and then you are connected to the graph. And if you don't believe me, I will show you how. So let's do a quick started. So I have here a terminal. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So if you can't see it, let me know. This is just an empty browser folder. Nothing is in it, as you see. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make a index file. And now you can see the index files in it. And I'm just gonna open it in my Visual Studio Code. Here it is. You can see there's the index file. And what I'm going to do is just create a boilerplate HTML. Here's your classic HTML wrapped or head and body wrapped in an HTML tag. Nothing special, right? And I'm going to change this to dev show. So the next thing that I wanted to do is introduce the Graph Toolkit into my project. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go back to my browser and find aka.ms mgt docs. This is everything that you need to know about. Let me also turn on no, do not disturb. Anything that you want to learn about the Graph Toolkit, you go to aka.ms/mgt-docs. And here on the left side, navigation, you can see there's Get Started Guide, and then we have your first app for all kinds of platforms and frameworks, and then we go into details into introducing other things, which we will talk a little bit in this presentation. So I'm just going to go to the Get Started overview and grab the HTML tag or the script that we needed to introduce the Graph Toolkit into our project. You know what? I'm going to copy all of them. So the reason that I'm only using a script tag is because I'm in the environment of only a web page. If you're using, more of a full-fledged project, so you can always install the MGTS npm package, and there's more information on that and how our different packages work within the MGT world. So now I'm going to go back to my HTML, and then I'm just going to drop these lines here. I'm also going to remove these two. So the script tag is the package loader for Graph Toolkit. And then from there, if you remember the other 2 lines that I copied from the Get Started Guide, here are 2 things that you needed, or at least one that's very important to introduce to your page, which is a authentication provider. This is going to take care of authenticating against the graph behind the scenes for you. One of the reasons that we created Graph Toolkit was at the beginning of this project, we worked with a lot of third-party and first-party developers, and they told us, the feedback was, authenticating against the graph is really complicated. There's a lot of, I don't want to read, all the OAuth protocol. I don't want to learn 5 ways of, delegated permissions and all this documentation. I just want to very quickly see what Graph can do for me. So this is where you would get started. And in the authentication provider, all you need to provide is a client ID. And this is something that you need to register with the Azure Active Directory. And if you don't know anything about Azure Active Directory, I would encourage you to go read on just a little bit about Microsoft Identity and how our identity platform works. And that's essentially a service that creates all these tokens and all the goodies for you to be able to access the service, right? So I already created a client ID on my own time, but if we have time in the presentation later, I can show you how this works. But essentially, you go to Azure portal, You select Azure Active Directory and you create a new application and select the platform as web, and then you check the boxes for ID token and access token, and then there's going to be an ID generated for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this ID that I saved. And as you can see, the other thing that I added to the page is a login component. And really simple, all you need to do is mgt-login. I'm going to start a server behind the scenes for this, and this is called a live server. It's a Visual Studio Code, what's it called, add-in, plugin. So this is just going to create a web server in the background for me to serve this HTTP or to serve this HTML page. And the port here says 5500, so I'm going to go to localhost 5500. And I think it's thinking. There it is. Because my browser has Megan's credential cached or already logged in, so the graph automatically signed me in with Megan's account. And this is a demo tenant that I created before this presentation. So now you have it. A login component already connect to the graph. What this means is now you have access to all kinds of data around Megan as a person, and you can get those information through other components that we have, or write your own graph calls if you will. But I'm just gonna show, maybe I wanted to see Megan's, and that is a really popular one. So here, after I saved it, on the left side, you can see Megan's email or the events on her calendar shows up. And there's also a lot of attributes that you can tweak. The look and feel of these components, such as if I wanted to group by date. Now it's going to group for every day, or I can say, I want to see the next 5 days, or you can do a date equal something for starting from which day that you wanted to look at them. So very quickly, you have graph data already at your grasp, and there's a lot that you can do from now on. The other thing that we can also see is maybe I wanted to see everybody who constantly work with Megan. So I can just drop the mgt-people tag in there, and now it shows all the people that Megan constantly worked with. And I can also say I wanted to, I think it was show max equal 7 maybe. So now it's going to show me like 7, and then whomever, if it's not 7, clearly you can, there would be like a plus. So what if it's 5? Now it's going to show me 5 plus 1. Great. So this is how you would get started with Graph. Really simple, right? Like you drop a script and then you write whatever, use it, like you created the authentication MSAL provider. It stands for Microsoft Authentication Library. And then you can start using our components. And if you're curious what these components are, just hold tight and we will get to that here in a minute. So I'm going to go back to my presentation. That's the first reason. So all the toolkit components are functional, fully functional. You can see that I didn't write a single line of JavaScript, and somehow it's connected to the graph behind the scenes for me. The second reason is the Graph Toolkit works in any browser and with any framework. Because when we designed this, the components are built on web standards and utilizing the web component technology. We're not making a decision for developers who choose to use React or Angular or Vue, what have you. So, which means if you wanted to use our component, you can just wrap it around your standard how to create functional components within those frameworks, and it'll just work. And because it's built on top of web standard, of course, it works in any browser. On top of building for the convenience of all of our audience, we also people told us after a while and said, it's a little hard to, if I create classic components in React, it's simpler, but because your components are functional, I need to create all these functional components inside of React. How do I do that? There's also a lot of documentations online. But we took a step forward and created a package called MGT React. This actually handles a lot of wrapper code for you, where you can just use our component as React component right away. Reason number 3. The Graph Toolkit has a very beautiful, out-of-the-box Microsoft 365 look and feel, or you can also argue if it's beautiful or not, but it is the look and feel from all your Microsoft products. And I can show you what they look like by showing you this great tool that we have on top of Microsoft Graph Toolkit. It's called a playground. And let me just navigate to mgd.dev here. This is a playground that we built in order to show developers who are interested in play around with the components but are not fully committed yet, I guess. So imagine that you can even remove one step further, that you don't have to go to Azure portal to create your client ID in order to see what Graph can offer you, right? So this is where you would go. So we have a sandbox solution set up in the background. So these data are sample data from one of the demo tenant. I already showed you how the agenda component looked like. I showed you what login looked like. And you can see this button. It's kind of like how your mail or your Teams profile would look like, right? And so we have things like MGT person. This is going to show you someone's photo, very simple, their name, email, and you can even add another line to show their title. You can get presents for these users. Megan is not signed in, so it shows that she is offline. And this is a very popular one. MGT person card kind of mimics what we have in the first party experience in Outlook and SharePoint, that if you have someone that you want to hover over their face and see more information about this person, you can see the person card right here. Drops down to show more details. You can contact them right from here, or see more of their information, organizational structures, or even if they consented to these permissions, you can even see, their personal skills that link to LinkedIn. Something else that's very popular, Teams channel picker would connect to Megan's Teams account and find all the teams that she's part of, and then take out the channels, and you can complete your workflow from there. You can also see some of the to-dos for these people. Apparently the pre-set up tenant doesn't have any tasks, but if you want to see how it looks like, we also have tasks right here. This is a merge of 2 APIs, one for Planner and the other one for Microsoft To Do. But if you want to just to-do tasks, you can always go to MGT To Do. So of course, people picker, you can pick, who I normally work with, who I work closely with, and that kind of information. Anyways, so like I said, the third reason was all of these components have a out-of-the-box Microsoft look and feel, but you can also customize them, and we'll get to that here in a minute. So reason 4, the Graph Toolkit is very flexible and customizable if you don't like how it looks like. And I'm going to show you how to customize it. For example, what if I wanted to use the person component, but I also wanted to show something else? I could potentially say, I think there's docs here that you can say there's 3 lines. Let me double check. So another thing that's built into the playground is you can see some of the developer docs right here in this view. Scroll down. And the attributes that's available that you can add to HTML tag, or the JavaScript properties that you can use to tweak the code behind the scenes. So what I'm going to do is, I think I could do view equals 2 lines, 1 line. Maybe there's 3 lines also. Oh, there it is. And you can also change what you want the third line to show. So I could say line 3 property. Is that what it is? Sorry, forgot already. So right here, line 3 property. Copy that. Come back and add it right here. equals, I don't know, title. Two lines. Okay. Okay. Anyways, I could also add for example, if I add an ID to this object and just say, this is me, I go to JavaScript, like I said, you can tweak these properties here as well. I'm just going to say const component equal document dot get element by ID, and then I'm going to get me. And from there, I'm just going to tweak what's inside of me object. And I just copied a whole bunch of code because I don't want to type all of these out. So component, if I say I wanted to update this component with some JavaScript behind the scenes. Must be a new thing. All right, so, sorry, give me 1 second. Let me add all of these in again. Okay, not gonna file a bug about this, because normally in the person details, it will actually change the display name to what I set it to be, and then change my email, and then drop title and go from there. This is very interesting. Is this a person? Yep. All right, there's a bug for me to file against my repo later. But I could also show you, let's change a component. I'm just gonna wing this one. I could also say, what if I wanted to change the background of these cards? So I'm just gonna say MGT agenda, and then event background color equals teal, maybe. So this changes the background color for me, and then I could also do something like event border. I want it to be 2 pixel and dotted. There you go. So like I said, you can change these or customize these components to fit your organization's requirements for design. And we also have a lot of examples under each component to show you some of the common requests that we've gotten from people. For example, a lot of people wanted the dark theme component, so we built in all these dark themes for you for each component, and you can see them right here underneath. It's always a story underneath each component. Cool. And another thing about customizing is templating. This is a little bit more advanced, so I'm just going to spend like 2 minutes on it. In the toolkit, there is an option that you can render different templates within each component, and you can find these in our documentation under each component. If I go to people, for example, and then I scroll down, and here's the properties and the CSS, and then under templates, you can see these are some of the available templates that you can nest inside of your MGT components. And we also have some samples, such as maybe you wanted to get some, within the MGT get component, you wanted to template and get the value and show all of the team's messages in a way. So now if I select the channel, I think there was a design channel maybe. This is going to show me everything in the design channel, and you can represent your application and templating them in a way. Cool. Going back to the presentation again. So that was the demo that we just saw. Number 5 is the goal of this toolkit library is we're trying to make authentication super easy. So I showed you at the beginning what it would look like to use the Microsoft Authentication library, the IMSOL provider. And people also wanted to say, what if I wanted to build on different platforms that within the Microsoft 365, such as I wanted to build a Teams tab app. So we also have providers that make these super easy, that you can, detect the environment that you're in. If the provider can or realizes that you're in the Teams environment, then it will use the Teams authenticator versus the MSOL provider. So where to find these is if you go to, again, our documentation. And then on the left side here is all the providers that you can use right here. And it goes into details of how each provider works and how would you initiate them. And there's a sample in our folder for each of these providers. And I wanted to point out, because this is one of the most common questions that I always get from the community. People are saying, like, you're building all these front end code, and what if I don't want to exchange my graph token because I don't think it's secure that way from the front end to the server? I wanted to make a server to server call. You can absolutely do that. And if you have your own backend code already handles the authentication against graph, what you could do is use the proxy server to create a proxy layer to exchange the token between your own front end and back end, and then use that to make all the graph calls. So I just want to point that out real quick. 1 second. So make sure that you check out all the authentication providers that's available out there that can help you build apps very fast on different platforms. And then we have, I have a couple demos that might be interesting to people, because sometimes people are asking, what are the end-to-end scenarios that you can build with the toolkit? So I've got a couple over here. First one is called employee onboarding. This is kind of like a one that captures all kind of productivity app. So I'm gonna play this video. So earlier, I showed you how easy it was to add a login component onto the web page, and this handles the auth flow behind the scenes. And we're going to extend that a little bit with, some more structure and a little bit more work on the page. And you can see here's my login component, and I get it from the script MGT loader that I already showed you, and using the same MSOL provider. And then in the header section, I'm going to add a couple more images that you can see. It's already on the screen, and then we're going to add a little bit more like meaty in the main part of the page. So you can see that they're nicely organized, and Megan is logged in here in the browser and using Megan as the default account. And then next, we're going to add a new employee, we're going to add what new employees will need on their first day. So first, I'm going to add a calendar events that Megan needs to attend. The MGT agenda component provides the user's calendar events, and you can organize it by supplying attributes such as maximum number of events to show and number of days to fetch from the graph. So next, we're going to add a to-do component. This is evolved from the MGT tasks, and will retrieve tasks from the new to-do API. And then in the last section, I'm just going to add a list of people that are relevant to the logged in user. Here's Megan, and MGT people component helps me do just that. So now when I save and refresh the page, you can see Megan has all the productivity information that she needs to start her day, her calendar, her to-dos, and her team that she needs to be in contact with. But what if I wanted to customize this a little bit more? I think this is going to give me, the video might be doing a better job than the earlier demo that I discovered a bug. So instead of using the default Graph Toolkit styles, I needed to fit the design of my company, and this is where my templates comes into rescue. And let's start by customizing the greeting language and add the logged in users' names. I'm just going to say welcome to PAX Megan. So if I simply add the MGT person component, you will see that Megan's image instead of her name shows up. So then I can supply a nested template to take advantage of the data already retrieved by MGT person. and show her given name. And now the double handlebar is just something that we created. And you can also switch out that syntax if you're more familiar with the double brackets. So similarly, I can also customize how the to-do component looks. So you can check out the toolkit documentation and supply the corresponding data type that you would like to use for your templates. In this experience, I already know that I only wanted to show the essentials of the to-do component. So, right here in the template, I'm just going to add a couple things like the task title and a due date. Okay, so here's the title, and then I'm going to add a due date, and then you're going to see how different it looks. And the date from date time is a helper function that I actually created in a JavaScript file, but it's very simple, just formatting time from the machine time to whatever time zone that you desire. So now it only has all the information that I needed, and you can check off the to-do items as you like. And then here's the next page. There you go. So when we finish styling this page, and we can see how all the graph components kind of work together. And here is your logging component handling the auth flow. We have a person component that shows customized greeting message. You have the agenda component that shows you a timeline of events that you can attend. And if you notice, I also changed the CSS there. And the V2 to-do component that provides a list of your upcoming tasks. And then also a list of people that you work with. This is also if you hover over it, you can also see the person card and more details. And this utilizes then the new person API as well. And you can continue your workflow by sending them emails, or start your chat directly from here, or extend a view that show you more information. And you'll be able to message your coworker, look up their contact details, copy, and with a simple click, and check out the organizational structure, see emails that you both participated in, and even careers and skills information that they have, that if the other user has enabled it. So now you have it. Utilizing just a couple lines, a couple of the Graph Toolkit components, you will be able to build an employee onboarding portal. And I built this in like a day, probably like 2 hours. Let me time check, 45. Maybe you'll be able to do this. So this is a new demo that we showcased earlier at a different event, and I think this might be interesting to some people as well. This shows how to utilize the component in a different, like, the demo is not just built for the toolkit; it's for like a real life scenario. So I'm gonna go back to my terminal in a different tab. This is where I have the project, and then I'm just going to open this project. Here, open up in a different window. And all I'm going to do is npm start. So as it runs in the background, I am going to go to apparently localhost 8000. This is so big. So when we built this app, we're kind of imagining a scenario, what if there's emergencies that you have a team that you need to manage this kind of situation. What if I sign in here with my Megan's account? And you can see it just like very quickly on a map, it shows everything that Megan needs to manage in this emergency response team. So she's just a team member, and then now she needs to get the project going. So what we need to do here is on the left side, you can see that Megan signed in. And then I'm just going to click one of the tasks that's assigned to her. And then right here, you have some of the event feed on the left side already. And then here you can, change status of this project. But what I wanted to show you is we actually thought of a scenario. Maybe you wanted to assign a lead to this project. So I can click, this is the MGT people picker. And this shows me people that Megan normally or works most closely with. I'm just going to add Alex as the lead. And you can also assign it to a couple people. I don't know who else is in here. So I'm just going to randomly type some letters to find some people in this organization. And then I can also say that Megan is part of a team that already has all these people in there, and I just want to send a Teams message to everybody. So I'm going to select the red channel. I think it's called disaster management, and okay, wildfire. And then, the one last thing is if I wanted to do add someone, I'm just going to add Alex here, who I already selected as the lead, and say, Alex, please take a look at this. So finding all of these people and getting the right channels to send this message and tagging someone to get their attention. And now I can subscribe to get email updates from this application, web app. All of these is enabled by the Graph and the Graph Toolkit. And if I save this, we could see there's an update here. I think I have another tab with Megan signed in. In the inbox folder, there it is. Oh, the email doesn't work anymore, huh? But if we go to Teams and check out the wildfire channel, there's Megan's status update and said, I'm going to assign Alex as the team lead and all these people that I picked. And behind the scenes, you're calling a Graph Teams API to send this message and then send an email as well. Apparently, one of the email account doesn't work anymore. So this is our demo. This is my demo tenant that I created a while ago. Anyways, here is all two demos that I have. Hopefully, that can inspire you a little bit for your productivity app or organizational needs. And here's all the resources that we have. For some of them I already mentioned, some of them I didn't. Graph Explorer is a fantastic resource if you want to try out different graph calls. You can also see our developer docs and find the samples and go read about Graph Toolkit. And then there's AppSource, and the partner examples are both on graph.microsoft.com that you can get inspired of building your app as well. That is all I have for today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for, oh, sorry. When you have two cooks, that happens. that was really great. Thank you. And it's so easy actually to use this Graph Toolkit.
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, some of you already know that I'm a big fan of using web components everywhere. And yeah, I mean, of course, you can always create all of these one, but when it comes out of the box, why you're not using it? It's all taken care of. I mean, there is a big team working on it to make sure that it's up to date and it works and so on. So it's so good to use them. And Beth, please send me the link to your slide. I'm going to write a follow-up email to everyone after the talk, so they will all have the the kind of the links that you share there as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So, and we actually you inspired some people to go and try it out. So Jonna was saying that she never tried it out, but now you inspired her to do so.
Yay!
And Marcus also liked the presentation. So we have some good shout outs in the chat here. Just wanted to share it with you, Beth.
Sounds good. Jay, any questions?
No questions, so definitely all clear. But
Easy for me.
it could be that there will be some questions when people try it out. Yes, put on the
yes.
I'd be the giraffe. The giraffe.
You should definitely do so.
Yes, great. So for all of you out there, as I promised, you all are going to, if you scan this QR code, you're going to get your Winter Learner badge. And just like me, is also having some hot coffee there. And so for those of you that you never heard of this project, which is Azure Heroes, a project is like a token of appreciation from us to you out there by using and building on top of our technology and learning it every day. So if Winter Learner is one of the badges that we have, but we have more of them. If you want to learn more about the project and nominate yourself or one of your community friends, you can just nominate them there by going to this URL and also checking the hashtag to see that what's going on there. And I just have a heads up to you. If you check the Azure Heroes Twitter account on February 11th, something will happen there. So not saying anything, just have an eye on the account on that day, and you will be one of the first person to know what will happen.
And then the badges, they're also just super cool to have, right? And brag to your colleagues and friends and community friends as well. So having them in your wallet, they are super unique. So
yeah, and sometimes you might also get something like the hoodies that Rasmus is wearing right now as one of them. So feedback, Rasmus, do you have anything to?
Yeah, definitely. We would, as always, love to get your feedback. This is your show, so we would like to put what you need, what you want into the show. So please go ahead and give us your feedback. You can both do it in this awesome form that Sherry has created, or you can go ahead and tag us or direct message us on Twitter. So any channel is welcome, but let us know what you want to hear, who you want to get on the show, and even if you want to speak yourself as well. And also for this specific session, any feedback to Beth, we will share it with her as well. So give us your feedback.
Yes, please do that. And yeah, I have to learn how to use my keyboard. Yes. So, and our upcoming event next
week, we will have Natalia talking about micro-frontend and microservices. And you can see here, it is a use case for a trendy architecture solution. So stay tuned and join us for next week's. This is going to be awesome as well.
Yes, and then we have a workshop on Power Apps component framework happening on February 11th. So use the link and then join that as well. And also we have a maker show as well. So maker show is, you can say that is more like a dev show, but it's more focused on the different project specific and not on the topic. And then this one, Sarah is going to show us talk about the project that she made by combination of IoT and AI to save animals actually. And in this specific case, it was about the elephants. So I'm really looking forward to this session with her on February 24th. And speaking of saving animals and planet, we have this hackathon coming up on March 22 and 26. So what we did here is that we reached out to a lot of nonprofit organizations that they have an actual real use case about the challenges that they have in order to actually to save our planet. And they're bringing all of those challenges there, and then we can all help together to actually to solve these challenges there. And in order to actually to skilling up ourselves, we also came up with a solution, like a 2 weeks long, 3 2 weeks long cloud skills challenge that started actually from today. And I have a short video to actually to show you to then you know that what I am talking about. Just hold on a second. So let's watch this one.
Have you heard about the climate hackathon on the 22nd of March? It's a hackathon for you, me, us and the Earth. We will hack the climate for a more sustainable world. To get you ready for the hackathon and to sharpen your skills, we've created a set of 3 cloud skills challenges spanning the next 6 weeks before the event. This first challenge is all about Azure Cognitive Services and to see whether they can help you in tackling those environmental challenges you'll meet on March 22nd. If you want to find out more, go to microsoft.com/AI Cloud Skill Challenge.
Yes, so Amy could actually explain it way better than me. So it's a start from today, and yes, join us and learn more about that. And I guess we are done. Is there anything else to ask me?
Nope. I think we're all left to say is thanks, Beth, for joining us today on Dev Show, and thanks everybody for watching. And remember, if you've been inspired and want to share it with a friend or a community, please share the on demand. This is recorded, right? So have a good day, Beth, and have a good afternoon, evening to people in our part of the world. And thanks for joining. See you.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.